Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Tonight, we're doing something truly special, I think. A deep dive that pulls back the curtain, not on those grand historical events, the battles or the royal decrees, but on the intimate, often really stark realities of everyday life in the medieval world.
Yeah, we're stepping into two lives lived at, well, diametrically opposite ends of the same society.
Exactly. Exploring that vast chasm that separated them. Imagine this with us. On one side, you've got a king draped in the finest velvet, surrounded by this meticulously choreographed retinue of courtiers, where his every nod dictates law and fate. And then on the other side, a peasant, waking up to a cold, aching body, fueled mostly by hunger, surviving one arduous season at a time with just, well, sheer grit, calloused hands, and maybe a kind of quiet, profound hope.
And that's the core of it, isn't it?
It is. Our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack the immense gap between these two figures. And it's a gap not just of power and privilege, obviously, but of daily purpose, sensory experience, personal agency, everything, really.
Yeah, how their days, though worlds apart, were both profoundly bound by these powerful systems they didn't choose.
Systems that dictated their every breath, basically.
And that's precisely where the true revelation lies, I think. This isn't just a comparison exercise, it's more like an excavation. We're digging into surprising facts, critical insights into their minute-by-minute existence.
From the moment they open their eyes.
Exactly, through the routines, the food, the clothes, the work, right through to their final, inevitable rest. We'll help you understand how deeply interwoven their lives actually were, despite that visible chasm between them. It's a study in contrast that really peels back the layers of medieval society, revealing some foundational truths about how that whole structure worked.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting right at the very beginning of their days, those most intimate moments, their morning routine.
Right.
So for our peasant, there's no soft awakening here. The sources describe it not as waking from rest, but waking to something, waking to a low, dull ache in the back.
Like someone quietly grinding a stone into your spine. It's quite an image.
It really is. Can you just picture that? It's this constant, pervasive physical discomfort that greets them before they even fully open their eyes.
It's powerful, yeah. And what's fascinating here is how immediately the physical environment just asserts its dominance. That straw-stuffed mattress, for instance. It isn't just old.
No.
Our sources describe it as more mold than straw now. Hasn't been changed, probably not even aired out properly, in years.
Ugh.
So with every small shift of the body, this fine dust rises, right? Carrying that faint, musty smell of mildew.
You're sharing it too, aren't you?
Oh, absolutely. You're certainly not alone on it. You're sharing that meager bedding with your wife, maybe 2 children. And the source says something you're fairly sure is either a rat or a deeply unlucky squirrel.
Oh my goodness.
But, and this is a really profound detail the source notes, it's warm, and that's something.
Wow.
That just underscores the absolute basic level of survival they're operating on. Any warmth, no matter the source, is precious.
Exactly. And the hut itself offers almost no sanctuary from the elements, does it?
Not really, no. The roof is perpetually leaking. Those clay patches they meticulously applied last autumn, they just didn't hold against the winter rains.
You hear it all night.
Yeah, there's been a slow drip plinking into a tin bowl all night. A sound so relentless, so constant, that the source hauntingly compares it to a cruel clock just marking the miserable hours.
And inside, no fire waiting for you.
Yeah, just coal ashes and that lingering, almost mocking memory of warmth from the night before. Your breath fogs visibly in the air, a constant chilling reminder of the biting cold seeping into your bones.
And no proper chimney either.
Right, just a rudimentary hole in the roof that lets the smoke out and the rain in, doing, as the source dryly puts it, both jobs poorly.
It's an immediate visceral struggle against the elements from the very moment they stir.
Yeah.
Every breath, every movement, a physical challenge.
The sensory details really bring this to life, don't they?
Yeah.
Outside, you hear a groan. The source says it might be the wind, it might be the pigs, or it might be your neighbor Edric already splitting wood.
You can't even tell.
You can't quite tell, and perhaps it doesn't truly matter. The air itself is heavy, thick with the smells of damp straw, stale ash, unwashed wool, and that cold. It settles into your bones like an old friend, a constant companion that never leaves.
So your first actions are just about surviving that moment.
Incredibly deliberate, yeah. A cautious effort just to avoid knocking over the half-frozen bowl of water left beside the mattress. You reach out, break the skim of ice with your fingers, and splash it onto your face. A sharp sting. The source says, That's how you know you're awake. It's not about refreshment. It's a jolt into harsh reality.
And then the clothes. The same tunic as yesterday.
And likely every day before that. It's described as rough, smells faintly of smoke and earth, and has been mended so many times the patches have patches. You secure it around your waist with a length of rope because your old leather belt, which was probably a rare possession itself, finally gave out weeks ago.
And bare feet hitting that cold dirt floor.
Bare feet on the cold, hard dirt floor. Shoes are a luxury. You might have had a pair once, worn till they disintegrated. The sources grimly note, now it's bare feet. In winter, it's not pleasant, but at least you don't have to worry about thieves stealing them.
That detail really drives home the level of poverty, doesn't it? The absolute lack of anything superfluous. Every single item serves a critical purpose.
And the living space itself is equally stark. It's a testament to survival over comfort. Typically one single room, right? No separate spaces, no dividers.
Just the essentials.
Just a central hearth, a few basic tools hanging on the wall, maybe some scraps of cloth or animal hide haphazardly draped over window openings to block the biting wind. Privacy, luxury, these are completely unknown concepts here.
You live, as the sources put it, cheek by jowl with your family.
Yeah, a profound lack of personal space that most of us today just couldn't fathom. Sometimes even your livestock shares the dwelling. A goat might sleep near the door for a shared bit of warmth.
Right.
And chickens peck freely inside, looking for stray grains. Your wife, still asleep or perhaps just pretending, was likely up for much of the night with the baby.
Oh, the sick baby.
Who has a fever that stubbornly won't break, despite every folk remedy they've tried. Garlic, desperate prayers, even a supposedly holy cloth.
And the oldest son.
All
already working.
Already outside, maybe only 10 years old, tending the communal fire pit, coughing in the cold morning air, but working with the grim determination of a grown man because the family depends entirely on his meager labor. There's simply no one else.
So you managed to grab a crust of hard bread. From what, a board?
From a flat board that serves as a rudimentary table, yeah. Scorched from countless cooking pots. This bread is dark, coarse, made from barley or rye, often mixed with whatever filler you had available, peas, ground corns, even sawdust.
Sawdust.
It's typically baked only once a week, so by morning, it's days old, dense, heavy, and brittle. You dip it into leftover water to try and soften it, but it barely helps. You chew it slowly.
Loves patience.
With the patience of someone who knows there's no alternative. Then, maybe a quick habitual moment of ritual. Mumbling a prayer to a crude carving of some unknown saint on the wall, finding a sacred rhythm in the handful of Latin words you know, hoping it's enough.
Just hoping for some meager protection for the day.
Yeah. That rooster crowing, not your own, of course, but your neighbor Edric's, sounds smug, the sources note, almost mocking. You stretch, and your back pops in 3 places, a common jarring sound that becomes your morning anthem. You take a deep breath, the air still heavy with damp straw, stale ash, unwashed wool. The cold has settled into your bones like an old friend, that constant familiar ache, and then it's time.
Time to start.
The internal monologue is stark. Today, like every day, begins with wood. Without fire, there's no warmth, no cooking, no hope of boiling the lice from your clothing.
It's that fundamental.
Absolutely. You grab your dull hatchet and trudge towards the tree line. You're not allowed to cut trees in the Lord's forest, technically, but everyone does, desperately hoping the steward isn't watching today. The mud clings stubbornly to your feet. You slip once on a frozen patch and curse quietly, a small, futile act of defiance against the unending struggle. That is the peasant's dawn.
Now, let's shift gears completely. Worlds away to the king's morning.
Right.
He wakes slowly, not from pain or cold, but from, well, the luxury of power itself. His enormous bed is like a fortress of comfort, draped in heavy velvet, lined with thick furs imported from distant lands. The sheets beneath him, imported linen so incredibly soft they barely whisper as he shifts.
And the mattress.
Goose down, generously filled with goose down. Not from ordinary geese, mind you, but from geese raised specifically for a palace, their precious feathers collected by hand, one by one.
Incredible detail, and the room is already warm.
Already warm, exactly. Thanks to a servant whose only duty is to keep it fed with select logs from the royal forest birch, cedar, oak that burn cleanly and smell faintly sweet.
And this waking ritual, the levee, it's not just getting up, is it?
Not at all. It's a meticulously choreographed dance, a performance of power and deference. A gentle knock at the chamber door, then a pause, then another knock, and the door opens.
Then the servants file in.
A valet enters with a basin of warm, perfumed water, followed by another servant carrying a warmed robe, a third with a soft, clean towel, a fourth with silk-lined slippers. Each attendant bows deeply in a precise sequence.
This isn't merely about comfort, it's deeply political. Who is allowed into the room? Who speaks first? Who touches the king's garments? Protocol is everything.
Every single gesture, every bow, constantly reaffirms the natural, divinely ordained order of things, with the king at its undisputed apex.
You can just imagine him stretching luxuriously.
Right. A servant pulls back the heavy velvet curtains. Sunlight floods the chamber, pouring through stained glass windows, casting shifting patterns of deep blues and vibrant reds across the polished stone floor. He yawns this deep, unhurried sound and swings his legs over the side of the bed. But his feet
Never touch the ground.
never touch the ground. Soft, silk-lined slippers are slid onto them before he even moves. He quite literally doesn't lift a finger.
He moves to a wash basin. The water's not just warm.
Perfumed with rose oil, he examines himself in a polished silver mirror, a rare and expensive item, perhaps thinking, not bad, maybe a bit pale,
Yeah.
but acceptable.
And he's groomed by others.
A dedicated servant trims his beard with tiny, sharp shears, another combs his hair, a third applies a rich balm to his hands, which are of course unblemished by manual labor. His clothes for the day are already laid out, a doublet intricately embroidered with gold thread, hose dyed a deep, luxurious green, a cloak lined with pristine ermine fur.
These aren't just clothes, they are potent symbols, dyed with incredibly expensive pigments like woad for blue, madder for red, saffron for yellow. Each hue alone denotes immense wealth and power.
And the smell. Totally different from the peasants.
Oh, completely. The king can already smell breakfast. Freshly baked manchip bread, honeyed figs, spiced sausages, perfectly poached eggs, something sweet, something savory.
And it's served in the solar, right, not the bedroom.
Right, a private sunlight room designed for comfort and contemplation, beside a roaring fire, beneath a grand tapestry depicting his revered grandfather slaying a boar. While he eats, he might hear poetry, music, scripture, or receive select guests.
But the actual business of the day can wait.
Usually does, yeah. When a steward arrives with the morning briefing news from the border, a letter from a bishop, a request from a noble, a report on grain stores, the king simply waves it away. A casual, dismissive later.
Just later. He sits there in the luxurious warmth of his sipping spiced wine, listening to a lute player softly plucking a tune.
The gentle melodies echoing.
Outside, the castle bells or cathedral bells ring the hour. The sound is pleasant, faint, untroubling. The vast, tumultuous world beyond the castle walls does not concern him, not yet.
He sips his wine, watches the sunlight. Breakfast, and indeed the world, can wait.
It's an almost absurd contrast, isn't it? One individual wakes to the brutal, immediate reality of cold, hunger, unrelenting physical labor, facing a constant struggle for survival.
While the other awakens to profound comfort, dedicated service, a meticulously orchestrated environment where every single need is anticipated and met before it's even recognized, all without lifting a finger.
That's it, exactly. This immediately highlights the fundamental difference in their very existence. For the peasant, mourning is a direct, unavoidable confrontation with harsh reality.
And for the king, it's a careful, almost theatrical performance of supreme comfort and absolute control. One endures, the other dictates.
And that profound contrast extends straight into something as fundamental as daily food, sustenance. For the medieval peasant, what we might call breakfast, it wasn't really a meal like we think of it.
No, the sources call it a concession, right? A small pause between waking and working, a momentary comfort carved from the relentless pace of survival, rarely any ceremony, and certainly never any choice involved.
You picture the hearth fire, still sulking from the night before.
A low, smoldering pile of cold ashes. You prod the embers with a stick, blow gently with aching lungs, desperate for a flicker. You carefully feed it until it glows enough to warm a crude clay pot. Your hands hover over the faint warmth, desperate to steal back the warmth the night took from you.
And no real table, just that flatboard cross stumps.
Yeah, scorched from countless pots. You ladle a scoop of what's generously called porridge into a chipped wooden bowl. It's described as a lumpy gray paste, closer to paste than soup, with occasional husks of grain that crunch when they shouldn't.
Grim, the recipe.
Simple and stark. Water, ground barley or oats, maybe a pinch of salt if you can possibly afford it. No milk, because your cow, if you ever had one, likely died last winter. And any village dairy supplies mostly go straight to the reeve, the lord's agent.
And the bread. We mentioned it earlier. Dark, coarse, made from barley, Rye.
Mixed with whatever else can be ground into flour.
Yeah.
Peas, ground corn, or alarmingly even sawdust, baked maybe once a week, so by morning it's days old, dense, heavy, and often brittle.
You dip it in the mush just to soften it enough to bite.
Trying not to break a tooth, yeah. And you chew with the patience of someone who knows there's no alternative. It's pure necessity, not enjoyment. The sources vividly point out that the term breakfast wasn't even common until later centuries. For these peasants, the fast never really ended.
Their bodies were just in a perpetual state of caloric deficit, always trying to catch up.
And their main drink, weak ale, served in a cracked wooden cup. It's thin, bitter, lukewarm, but critically, it's safer than water, drawn from a stream that has a habit of killing chickens and children alike.
Boiling water takes too much precious firewood.
Exactly, a resource too valuable to waste on just hydration. So ale, brewed from fermented grain, becomes the drink of choice even at sunrise. Sometimes, if you were really lucky, there might be an onion or a few leeks, boiled with a tiny bit of fat.
But usually no meat.
As the source states, this morning there's no meat. The last pig was slaughtered weeks ago, and most of it, as a strict tax, went directly to the Lord, a tax of flesh, bone, and survival itself.
You hear your neighbor Edric already working, you envy his energy, or maybe just his chickens.
Since he has 3, and you, tragically, have none. A muddy-faced, barefoot child from another hovel knocks timidly, asking for herbs for her sick sister. You don't have much, but your wife finds some dried nettles, trades them for half a heel of bread split in silence.
These small, quiet exchanges of survival.
As the weak sun climbs higher, you stand, stretch your aching back, wipe your hands on your already soiled tunic. The chipped wooden bowl goes back on the shelf. That was breakfast, the sources conclude, and now there is work. It's a layering of misery onto flesh, a small armor against the world.
In stark contrast, at precisely the same hour, in a grand palace maybe 50 miles and several universes away, breakfast is not a necessity.
It is a display.
Exactly. The king wakes to silk sheets, the smell of sweet wood smoke. A steward formally announces the meal, though the delicious scents have already revealed it. He's ceremoniously led into the solar.
Sunlit painted walls, magnificent Moorish rugs.
The table's already set. Gleaming silver platters, folded cloth napkins, carved wooden bowls glazed with enamel, polished, sharp knives.
And security is paramount.
Yeah.
No dish touches the table before being tasted by a food taster.
The poison threat.
The threat of poison is a very real, constant concern. A loaf of soft, brilliant white manship bread, baked from the finest, most meticulously sifted wheat flour, rests under a clean linen cover. This bread is prized for its purity, a luxury only the absolute upper class could afford.
Alongside it, perfectly poached eggs from palace hens, spiced sausages from venison, and boar cured and smoked in sophisticated ways peasants only dreamed of.
A bowl of plump imported figs, cut open, glistening honeycomb, dripping golden sweetness, rich, soft cheese from sheep raised on lands the king himself has never even seen.
The sheer luxury, you can almost smell it through the description. Nutmeg, ginger, cinnamon, saffron.
Spices more expensive than gold in this era. Imported at staggering prices through Venetian and Arab merchants, traveling perilous trade routes. The sources reveal a single sack of pepper might be worth a cow.
Wow. And the king eats slowly, deliberately.
Not because he is savoring the meal, but because he knows he can. There's absolutely no rush, no pressure. He sips sweet mead, a servant stands ever present with watered wine. Breakfast for a king is as much about being seen as it is about eating, a vital part of his daily performance of power.
While attendants hover silently, minstrels play softly, the steward reads the day's agenda.
Petitions, disputes, supply concerns. The king listens with only one ear, maybe chewing on a slice of pear poached in cinnamon. Finds it sweet, it is forgettable, just background sensation.
When he's had enough, he just waves his hand.
Plates cleared silently, a fresh, warm towel for his fingers. He reclines slightly, watching dust motes dance in the sunbeams. His greyhound rests its head on his slipper. He strokes its ears absently. Breakfast is over, the source states, not because he is full, but because he says so.
His will is absolute, even over his own appetite.
So the core distinction. One meal is purely fuel, a desperate measure against hunger. The other, a lavish display of pleasure and power, consumed simply because it exists.
The peasant scrapes the last grain from his bowl, drinks weak ale.
While the king, in the same hour, throws away half a roasted partridge because it tasted slightly overdone. And our sources give that striking detail about calories, the peasant getting maybe 1,500, 2,000 calories, mostly bread and pottage.
Surprisingly, maybe with less physical labor than we might imagine compared to the king.
Yeah, that's a subtle point. While the type of labor was intense, perhaps the duration wasn't always as long or consistent as we think, depending on the season and tasks. But the noblemen, closer to a staggering 4,000 calories, also, critically, with far less physical labor to burn it than their peasant counterparts.
Which leads directly to gout.
The infamous disease of kings, not just metaphorical, a painful reality born directly from too much meat, too much wine, too little motion.
That's a truly fascinating detail, that unexpected commonality of less physical labor for both of them, even if for totally different reasons. It makes me wonder, given the king's immense power and resources, what was the biggest health risk for him compared to the peasant? Was it just gout, or were there other, maybe less obvious vulnerabilities?
That's an excellent question, yeah. It's often overlooked. While the peasant battled constant hunger and infectious disease from, well, an incredibly unsanitary environment, the king faced a different kind of internal battle. Beyond gout, which was definitely pervasive and agonizing from those rich, meat-heavy diets, you had things like severe dental decay from all the sweets, and often, ironically, a lack of balanced nutrition despite the sheer abundance.
Huh. Too much of the wrong things.
Exactly. Plus, their relatively sedentary lifestyle, coupled with the constant mental stress governance, political intrigue, the ever-present threat of assassination or poison, it made them susceptible to a unique set of ailments, digestive issues, maybe even things we'd now recognize as stress-related conditions.
So while their diets were poles apart, they both faced distinct life-shaping health challenges.
Absolutely. Challenges imposed by their lifestyles fundamentally shaping their daily experience and effectiveness. Their bodies, though treated vastly differently, were still human, still vulnerable in their own ways.
It's a foundational difference, shaping their very physical beings. Which leads us right into how they dressed, how they presented themselves. And for the peasant, the clothing tells a story of deep scarcity, necessity, unending labor.
No wardrobes, the sources explain simply. They owned a garment singular, maybe two. One basic tunic for work, one perhaps for sleeping, and often, grimly, they were the same thing. Yours, the sources say, certainly are.
Made of rough spun wool.
The fiber is coarse enough to scratch your skin raw with every movement. The color, utterly unadorned, something between mud and old straw, once maybe pale brown, but years of unrelenting labor, constant exposure to smoke, and unwashed sweat have darkened it into a sort of anonymous, uniform drabness.
Sleeves uneven, patched.
One frayed dramatically at the cuff, the other clumsily patched with an old scrap from your wife's worn-out dress. The sources note almost dismissively, and no one will notice, no one cares. It's pure utility, no aesthetic purpose.
Underneath.
Yeah.
Maybe linen on a good day, but not today.
Right. Today is not a good day. It tore last week hauling timber, and you haven't had a moment or the materials to mend it. Besides, linen, while softer, doesn't offer that vital protection from the cold like wool does, even scratchy wool.
You step into your hose,
Yeah.
those woolen tubes.
Closer to long woolen tubes, tied at the knee, sagging at the ankle, and held up by sheer stubbornness. One even has a gaping hole in the heel, a constant discomfort.
And shoes. A rare luxury. Maybe cracked leather ones.
If you were lucky, yeah. Old cracked leather with twine laces and soles that have more holes than hide. Most peasants went barefoot half the year. In winter, maybe scraps of cloth wrapped around their feet. But today, you slip your feet into wooden clogs, crudely shaped and unforgiving, but infinitely better than frostbite.
Belt is just a rope. No buttons, no zippers.
No, those are centuries away. Clothes fastened, if at all, with simple knots, crude wooden toggles, or nothing at all. The neckline hangs open, your wife ties it closed with twine.
The sources paint such a visceral picture. There's nothing joyful about getting dressed when every stitch reminds you how close you are to nakedness.
And hygiene was a constant battle. Lice, fleas, common companions. You just brush something off your sleeve and decide not to look too closely.
And those sumptuary laws, restricting colors and fabrics for peasants.
Right. Forbidden from wearing fine colors like purple, scarlet, gold, or fabrics like silk. Of course, they couldn't afford them anyway, making those laws, as sources put it, laughable to them. They'd never even seen gold thread, let alone hoped to wear it.
Your wife wears a similar scratchy wool dress, maybe wimple. Kids in mismatched hand-me-downs.
Resembling scarecrows, the source says. Even the baby swaddled in rags, holes patched with more rags. For the peasant, clothing is not a transformation. It is not preparation.
Simply a layering of misery onto flesh, a small armor against the world.
Exactly. You wear it because to go out in nothing would be worse. It's a profound illustration of how every aspect of their existence was about bare survival.
Now in the Grand Castle,
Yeah.
the king's garments are a whole different universe. laid out by pages and valets long before he even opens his eyes.
Carefully selected, meticulously inspected, warmed by the fire so that not even a thread feels chilled when it touches his skin.
Starts with soft, bleached white linen underclothes.
Finely woven flax fibers. Only nobles could afford such softness, the source observes. The peasants grow the flax, the king wears it. These garments smell faintly of lavender, dried among aromatic herbs.
Over that, a long-sleeved linen shirt, almost weightless. Then snug woolen hose dyed deep blue.
Expensive woad dye, reserved solely for those of means and noble birth. Then he's helped into a doublet, a padded, tailored jacket with buttons of bone or polished horn.
Buttons as a status symbol.
Right. Unlike the peasant, the king wears buttons not because he must, but because he can, a clear mark of craftsmanship and an undeniable symbol of his elevated class. Every detail is deliberate.
His cloak, rich burgundy velvet, lined with ermine fur.
Fur reserved exclusively for royalty. It drapes regally, trails slightly, but a servant tucks it just so to avoid dust.
Feet in soft leather boots, custom-made, never touched mud.
Wears a silk sash imported from Byzantium or the East, ends embroidered with his house symbol. Silk traveled through trade routes guarded by mercenaries, arriving at great cost. The king just appreciates the feel of it.
Jewelry too, rings, brooches.
Not just for beauty, they are constant reminders that his body is sacred, adorned, elevated. The final touch, even for morning wear, is a delicate circlet. Not quite a crown, but enough to remind everyone who he is.
While he's getting dressed, attendants are chattering in the background. Weather, agenda, visitors.
It's all background noise to him. The king is quite literally busy being dressed. For him, getting dressed is not merely about function or even comfort, but a profound performance, a layering of power thread by thread.
His clothes are stitched not just to warm him, but to visibly separate him from the common world, to make it abundantly clear that he is not of the same cloth.
So when he finally steps into the Great Hall, robes trailing, hands ring, boots spotless, everyone who sees him understands the truth. This is not a man, this is a symbol, and symbols are always well-dressed.
The contrast couldn't be more stark, could it? One man in a patched wool tunic for survival, the other wrapped in tailored elegance as a statement of power.
One shivers by a smoky hearth, the other warmed by a fire he never tends. Both men, subject to the same needs, but one clothed in discomfort, the other in the performance of authority. It's a powerful visualization of that hierarchy.
And this dichotomy continues profoundly into their daily responsibilities. For the peasant, the day begins with the cold hitting like a slap. The muddy yard, a mess of frozen ruts. Chickens pecking, one limping.
You make a mental note to check its leg later. You won't. There's no time.
His day begins not with a grand plan, but with a list of obligations stacked precariously like firewood. Uneven, unstable, always about to topple. First, check the animals.
The family pig rooting through compost, eyes following him wearily like it knows it's next. Refills its trough with scraps, turnip skins, old leaves, porridge remnants. The pig eats with more energy than you'll have all day.
Then, the relentless need for wood. Pile is low again. Grabs the dull hatchet.
Trudges to the tree line, been harvesting the same grove all winter, venturing farther each day. Each swing of the axe feels heavier than the last. Gathers what he can carry. Broken branches, bark, damp twigs. Everything burns if you're desperate enough.
Hauls it back on his aching back. No sled, no cart, no mule, just muscle.
Knows it won't even last a week. Then water. Always water. Walks to the stream, buckets biting his chapped skin. Water's clearer than it should be. A bad sign means fewer fish, fewer frogs.
A subtle sign of precarity.
Slips on ice, knee slams into mud, spills a bucket. You don't refill it, you just go home. The effort's too great. Back at the hut, wife spinning wool, kids by the sulking hearth, changes into his rough working tunic, wraps a cloth around his head. There's work waiting in the Lord's field. There's always work and always for someone else's benefit.
Walks the mile to the manorial lamb, shoulders hunched. Today's duty, muck spreading.
Ugh. The stench is overwhelming, breathes through his mouth, trying not to gag, shovels slowly, spreading dung on frozen soil in the name of future fertility, the Lord's future fertility, not his.
And no pay for this. It's corvée labor.
Exactly. Forced, unpaid work. Part of his feudal obligation. Bound to dedicate 2, maybe 5 days a week to the Lord's land before his own tiny plot. Mends the Lord's fences, repairs roads, harvests grains. The rule is clear. To protest is to starve.
By midday, hands are raw, blistered, legs tremble, stomach groans. Lunch.
A meager crust of bread, a raw clove of garlic, a thin slice of dried turnip. Chews it slowly on a cold rock, watching the lords reeve on horseback. His boots shine, your knees are stained with filth. Stark contrast.
Always more work, yet sometimes a small moment of joy.
Sometimes, yeah. A quiet joy, finishing a furrow on his own plot, patching his own roof, building a chicken coop. It's not ambition, it's not pride, but it's yours. A brief, profound moment of personal accomplishment.
Now the king's daily duties begin in the great hall, long after servants have set it up. Tall windows, polished floors, fragrant herbs scattered.
Scribe-ready steward bows, ushers and petitioners. The royal household is a vast bureaucracy, treasurers, stewards, chamberlains, scribes, all maintaining the machinery of the realm.
He listens to the problems. Border disputes, unpaid taxes, bad harvests, rebellious barons. For each, he must decide.
And with a word, his decision becomes law, rippling through the realm. He spends hours holding court. Some ceremonial knights seeking titles, nobles pledging fealty. Much judicial land theft, marriage disputes, treason accusations.
His presence alone influences things. One raised eyebrow can sway a sentence.
Determining life or death, prosperity or ruin, the sources emphasize the medieval king wasn't always a tyrant. Days often consumed with small, grinding details of administration, adjudication, negotiation.
He's also a diplomat, arranging marriages like chess moves.
A daughter for peace, a nephew to a duchess for alliance. Alliances made with bloodlines, not just treaties, and crucially, he governs warfare. In peace, trains knights, reviews armories, fortifies castles, approves levy rosters.
In war, commands directly or via generals.
Yeah.
Many kings rode into battle themselves.
Some died there. His signature controls currency, minting more silver, debasing coinage ripples across trade. He has to think like a banker, warlord, priest, all while keeping nobles happy and peasants quiet.
Even feasts are work. Sitting there radiant with wealth, a living symbol of stability, food inspected, wine poured by protocol. Every bite is a message of power.
Meets bishops, abbots, papal legates, the church. Powerful ally and potential rival. Funds monasteries, cathedrals, but wary of Rome's influence. Excommunication could undermine his throne.
In quieter hours, listens to clerks read law books, chronicles, Roman texts, romances.
Must be informed ignorance is weakness. He also has to project health. A weak king invites rebellion, so he rides, hunts, leads processions. Visibility is a kind of labor exhausting, unending. Even sleep is guarded.
He doesn't dig ditches, no, but holds a realm together. Huge pressure, constant danger.
The peasant's hands calloused from earth, the king's calloused from decisions. One sweats in fields, the other in the throne room. One's misstep means hunger, the other's means rebellion. Both watched, both punished by weather versus politics. Peasant works to endure, king works to be remembered.
This profound distinction brings us to a stark, maybe uncomfortable truth about their very existence, their bodies and health. For the peasant, he wakes already unclean.
No moment of freshness, no scent of soap, no warm water. Dirt isn't just superficial. It lives with you, in your mattress, clothes, food, sometimes blood. It becomes so constant you either stop noticing or notice constantly, and there's just nothing to do about it.
That crude bucket in the corner with gray water used yesterday. Splashes hands, rubs face.
Shockingly cold. Feels awake, but unequivocally not cleaner. Soap is extremely rare, made from harsh lye and animal fat, coarse and stinging for special occasions or medical needs. His wife used it last weeks ago, still has the blisters.
Wipes hands on a soiled tunic. Smell like sweat and smoke and old wool, so does everyone else.
Peasants didn't bathe often. Not lack of desire, but lack of opportunity. No plumbing, no privacy. Water carried bucket by bucket. Heating it meant burning precious firewood, too vital for cooking and warmth.
A full bath, maybe a few times a year.
More in summer, less in winter. Couldn't waste warmth. The church preached cleanliness of the soul, not the body, sometimes saw excessive bathing as vanity. Roman baths sounded more like fairy tales.
Picks at dirt and fingernails, pointless ritual, feet cracked, knuckles chapped, persistent rash.
Ringworm or irritation. Wife combs kids' hair, crushing lice between thumbnails. Sanitation is primitive. Toilet is a pit behind the hut, half covered. Frozen and dangerous in winter, often just squats nearby. Public latrines overflowed, chamber pots dumped into the street with a shout of, "Go to loo!"
Dental care. She's a mint sprig if lucky. Some scrub with cloth and ashes, but most just lose their teeth before 40. Feels a mole or wiggle, spits blood.
Village healers suggests metal tea didn't help. Sleeping with a toad didn't try.
Disease is a constant companion. Boils, fevers, coughs, smallpox, dysentery. Neighbor's son died last week. Cause unknown. Bad meat or water or God's will. Checks the baby's forehead. Still warm, not burning, but not right. Sees the fear in his wife's eyes.
People carry dried herbs against miasmas, bad air. Priest says illness is punishment. Healer blames weather. Neighbor went 6 years without sickness, then foot turned black, died 3 days later. Ultimately, the peasant smells like a man who works for a living. You always will, and still you go on because there's no alternative. Sheer endurance.
Now, the king. Waking up isn't about filth, but fragrance. Chambers swept twice daily with aromatic herbs thyme, rosemary, lavender scattered on floors.
Believed to ward off illness, a symbolic barrier. Clean smells, they say, make for a clean body.
Sits by a basin of warm water. Servant dips linen cloths, wipes face, neck. Another dabs hands. Water infused with rose petals, orange blossom, sometimes vinegar. Smells like luxury.
Bathing. The bath comes to him. Large wooden tub lined with linen, filled with heated water from brass pitchers. Bathes when he wishes, sometimes once a week, sometimes daily. It's his choice. Absolute control.
Soap is imported luxury. Castile soap, olive oil lye, scented with citrus or pine. Lather softly, does not sting. Skin pampered with oils afterward, almond oil, goose fat, rubbed dry with fine linen, hair brushed, nails trimmed with care.
Cleanliness for royalty is an extension of health, status, godliness. Physicians, university-trained, believe in the four humors: blood, phlegm, yellow, black. Bile balance is key. Advised to avoid dampness, wind, spoiled food. Bled periodically to restore equilibrium.
Follows a regimen sanitatis, rules for healthy living. Moderate food, rest, gentle movement, fresh air, no overexertion. Body tended like a garden.
Teeth cleaned with cloth dipped in wine or vinegar, sometimes ashes or crushed herbs. Rinses with sage-infused water, bad breath, can signal internal decay. Listens patiently to tedious medical advice.
Illness still a threat, but when he falls ill, he is surrounded by care. Specifics, prayers, leeches, tinctures brewed in silver pots. When he coughs, 5 men listen anxiously.
During plague outbreaks, retreats to country estate, closes gates, no visitors. Hears reports of poor dying in streets. Commissions prayer, mass, candle. Dines as usual. Cleanliness is visible, scented, symbolic, managed by others.
Peasant scrapes mud with stick, king scrapes nails with ivory. Peasant smells of animals, ash, labor. King smells of citrus, rose water. One body raw, other cradled by steam, silk.
But both in the end bleed, both when cut scar, both when struck by plague fall the same way, and death, whether in a straw bed or a gilded chamber, does not care for soap.
That's a truly powerful observation. Mortality, the great equalizer. Now, how did these two very different lives approach escaping reality? Leisure, entertainment?
For the peasant, leisure is a strange word. Sounds like something for other people, softer lives. He doesn't have leisure, he has pauses, gaps in labor where your body aches too much to move. Yet even they find ways to break the monotony, because as one source notes, if all you ever do is work, eventually you forget why you bother to survive.
Most common entertainment. Talking, stories by the fire. No books, can't read. Tales passed down orally.
About saints, demons, dragons, kings. Some morality fables, others barely held together nonsense about animals who outwit the devil just to entertain, told slowly, dramatically, with long pauses and widened eyes. Didn't have to make sense, just make you forget your hunger.
Music, too. Village songs.
Yeah, communal song. Not cathedral melodies, but sharp, rhythmic chants, simple lyrics, easy to remember, often lewd, always local. Sung while working, not because it's fun, but because it helps the time pass.
Festivals were the height of joy. Church calendar provided structure. Feast days, saints' days, holy days were sanctioned excuses to stop laboring.
Drink, dance, gather in the square, Feast of St. Martin, roast meat, maybe a pig's head with onions for eyes. Children dance. Someone juggles turnips. Our peasant once drank too much ale and vomited behind the church, yet called it the best night of your year.
Games were simple. Rocks, sticks, imagination. Catch the goose, chasing a terrified bird, betting on log lifting, men wrestling in mud for nothing but pride and scratches.
Sometimes a rare traveling performer. Juggler, puppet show, man with a monkey. Our peasant watched a man swallow fire, stood mesmerized in mud for an hour, had no penny to give him. The experience was enough.
And then, ale. Weak, cloudy, sour, brewed in unclean barrels, served in unwashed mugs.
But it works, it dulls the edge. Brief escape. Sits with neighbors, listening to dirty jokes, laughing, not at the joke, at the effort. Drunkenness expected. Might dance barefoot with someone else's wife, sing forgotten songs, fall asleep under a tree. It isn't much, it's barely anything, but for a few hours it's enough to forget for a moment what they are.
Now, the king. Entertainment isn't a pause, it's an institution, an extension of power, taste, spectacle. Not just enjoyment, but control, presentation, dominance of boredom itself. Each day, Choices are a stage upon which he performs his identity as ruler.
Late morning, a minstrel plays in the solar lute, harp, flute. Trained hands, melodies composed to soothe or flatter. Knows their livelihood depends on his mood. He listens idly, sometimes closes eyes, not out of profound appreciation, but profound boredom. Waves hand, enough. Room empties.
Later, walks in curated spaces. Ornamental herb gardens, sculpted topiary, imported Italian fountains. Everything arranged to remind him of order. His order.
Plays strategic chess with a visiting noble. Ivory and lapis board, hand-carved pieces. Long, slow game, half conversation, half test. He wins because he must. Noble doesn't mind, was never trying to win anyway.
Afternoon, the royal hunt. Not necessity, it's theater. Mounts magnificent horse, leather doublet, crested gloves, hawks, hounds, horns, forest cleared, animals driven toward him by beaters, peasants with sticks.
Hits a deer. Great shot, misses. Great shot that narrowly missed. Royal record reflects it either way. Followed by lavish feast. Whole roasted boar, game birds, free-flowing wine. Not survival. This is abundance. A display of divine favor.
Court performers, too. Jesters, acrobats, storytellers, magicians, well-trained traveling kingdoms. Misstep could mean exile. Watches plays from Paris or Prague, themes of betrayal, honor, God. Applauds politely, even if he barely followed the plot.
Evening, listens to clerks read law, chronicles, religious texts, ancient Rome, romances. Asks questions, not always expecting answers, just showing engagement. Then more music, maybe a perfumed bath, then guarded sleep. For the king, entertainment is not rare, it is constant, and yet he is often profoundly bored.
That unexpected irony of privilege.
So the peasant laughs because it might be the only joy he feels all week, a hard-won release. King laughs because it's expected. One dances in dirt, other in gilded hall. One sings to forget hunger, other listens to fill silence. Peasant waits all year for one feast, king feasts daily and longs for something new. Both seek the same thing, to forget for a moment what they are.
Such a poignant observation, that universal human desire to escape reality. And finally, their ultimate journey, death and legacy. For the peasant, he feels it first. The way your breath shortens, the way your hands shake, tries to hide it.
Too much to do, too many obligations even when dying. Pain worsens. No doctor, no diagnosis, doesn't know if it's lungs or liver or just his body deciding it's had enough.
Midwife gives bitter root tonic. Healer suggests nettle broth. Priest visits with candle. Book asks for confession.
He confesses because that's what you do. Receives last rites. Tries to die with dignity, despite damp straw weeping wife.
In villages, death is simply part of life. Average life expectancy around 35, skewed with high child maternal mortality, accidents, illness. Survive childhood, might live to 40, 50, rare to see 60.
Family gathers, quiet, tries to say something meaningful lesson, joke goodbye. Remembers father's face, tries not to think of dead son, thinks of the unfinished fence, unaffordable tools, wheat, someone else will harvest.
No funeral procession, no grand tombstone. Buried in unmarked earth behind the church, maybe with a crudely carved wooden cross if there's time. Priest says Latin words he doesn't understand, hopes God does.
What's left? A patched roof that will stand a few more seasons, a good rake meticulously maintained, a son who knows kindling, a daughter who thinks. Maybe, sources speculate, someone will name their baby after you. Maybe they'll say, he was kind, he worked hard, he never wasted bread. That is enough. Source concludes. No one remembers most peasants, but the world they built one rock and one bale of hay at a time, that stays standing. That's legacy. Silent contribution.
Now the king feels death too, but not allowed to show it. King dying is dangerous. Unsettles court, invites ambition. Physicians say he's tired, courtiers whisper resting, enemies wonder how long he's left. Body fails, but protocol does not.
Royal death is ritualized, a final performance. Bedchamber becomes chamber of state, attendants hover, clerics arrive, royal confessor summoned, windows shuttered, relics brought. Anointed again with the oil of the dying, confesses, asks forgiveness, clutches gold crucifix, mutters prayers, scribe writes last words, or something poetic enough. King's death must not be ordinary.
If ruled wisely, genuinely mourned, poorly endured, treated like a vessel of divinity until the end. Family gathers, sons, wife, bishops praying, trumpets may sound, realm holds its breath. News announced with fanfare, black cloth on walls, bells toll, messengers ride, noble summoned, royal seal broken.
The body. Washed, dressed in finest robes, sometimes embalmed, organs might be removed, buried separately, hearts interred elsewhere, bones boiled for transport. Placed in elaborate coffin wood, stone, lead, effigy carved, death mask taken.
Funeral is pageantry. Dozens of priests, hundreds of candles, choirs singing, nobles in black procession, some paid to weep, some there simply to be seen.
Coffin on velvet-draped cart, horses in black. Heralds cry his name title as lowered into tomb. Interred in Royal Crypt, Westminster, St. Denis. Surrounded by ancestors, sealed in stone. Tomb engraved, marble image carved. Sword, crown, coins, relics buried with him.
We'll read, heir's name, succession confirmed, tense moment, but kingdom does not rest. Wars break out, bastards claim legitimacy, queens remarry, parliaments quarrel, one king dies, another takes his place, always.
What remains? A lord that bears his name, a cathedral funded by his tithe, a dusty portrait, maybe a chapter in a chronicle by a monk who never met him. More often, memory fades, overwritten by the next war, the next tax, the next king, relentless cycle.
To bring it all together, peasant beneath plain earth, king beneath gold and marble, one buried by neighbors, communal act, other by nobles, state spectacle, one by a ditch, other in a crypt.
Equally still. And here's where it gets really interesting. Sources say, time forgets them at the same speed. World turns, grass grows, languages shift, stories blur into legend, then oblivion.
What's truly fascinating is how, despite these huge differences, both lives were profoundly shaped by the rigid systems they inhabited.
Absolutely. One commanded, one obeyed. One built empires, the other, with relentless, silent labor, kept them running. One rock, one bale of hay at a time. Fates intertwined by the world structure.
And as we've seen, both were ultimately just men, subject to the same fundamental human needs, fears, desires, and the inevitable reality of death.
The sources highlight it perfectly. Whether in a straw bed or a gilded chamber, death does not care for soap, and time forgets them both at the exact same speed.
This raises an important, maybe haunting question for you, our listener, as you go about your own day. If both the king and the peasant crumble to dust and the wind blows their names away at the very same speed, what truly endures?
Yeah, what's left?
Is legacy truly a statue or a monument, a chapter in a book? Or is it, as our sources powerfully suggest, that quieter echo of your labor? The bread you baked that fed someone, the wall you built they stood another winter, the law you passed that outlasted your bones.
Or even just the song someone still hums without remembering where they learned it.
Exactly.
It's a profound reminder, isn't it, that all things, grand or humble, eventually fade. But some things, the quieter, more fundamental things, they endure. In the legacy of work, in the echoes of memory, and in the profound, often overlooked silence of human connection. Something for you to mull over as you navigate your own complex day.